Growing up, my sister and I were inseparable. She was older by just a year, and in so many ways I looked up to her. She was confident, beautiful, and always seemed to know what to say, how to dress, how to win people over. I was the quieter one, more reserved, the type who observed from the background, and I never really minded. She was my sister, and I adored her. People would always say things like, "You girls are lucky to have each other." And for the longest time, I believed that. We shared clothes late, night secrets, even crushes in high school, though only in the innocent way sisters tease each other. But now, looking back, I realize there were moments, small, easy to miss moments, that hinted at something else beneath the surface. It was always little things. I'd mention a new friend, and suddenly she'd be texting that friend, hanging out with them, forming her own connection. I'd get a compliment and she'd find a way to one-up it, showing off a better outfit, a story that drew more attention. But I brushed it all off. That's what sisters do, right? A little friendly competition, nothing serious. Nothing worth making a big deal out of, until I introduced her to my boyfriend. I remember the first time I brought him around. We weren't super serious yet, but I was already falling for him. He had this calm energy that made me feel safe, and he listened. Not just the kind of listening where someone nods while scrolling their phone, but real listening. My sister was there that night too, and I didn't think much of it at first. She greeted him with a warm smile and joked around as she always does. She complimented his shirt, laughed a little too loud at his jokes, and sat a bit too close. But again, I told myself it was nothing. She's just being friendly. Then the patterns started to form. She began showing up unexpectedly when I was with him, suggesting plans that just happened to involve the three of us, texting him little memes or funny things just as a friend. And I wanted to believe her. I really did, because who wants to believe that someone so close to you, someone who grew up sleeping in the bed next to yours, could be trying to take something, or someone, you love? But it was there, growing and becoming more obvious. The way she'd interrupt me mid-conversation to make herself the center of attention. The way she'd criticize me in subtle ways in front of him, saying things like, "She's always been a little sensitive," with a chuckle, as if that made it okay. It wasn't just friendliness anymore. It was calculated, intentional, and for the first time I felt like I wasn't just dealing with a jealous stranger. I was watching my own sister compete with me. It's a strange kind of heartbreak, realizing someone you've loved your entire life might not want the best for you. It shakes something deep inside, but even through the growing tension, I kept telling myself she'd never cross a line. She wouldn't really try to come between us, would she? I didn't know it then, but that night, the one where she laughed a little too long at his joke and held his gaze a little too closely, was the beginning of a betrayal I never saw coming. When I first met him, it felt like everything just clicked. We weren't some dramatic love art, first sight story, but there was an ease between us that made everything feel natural. He wasn't flashy or over the top. He didn't try to impress me with exaggerated gestures. Instead, he made me feel seen, like I wasn't just another face in a crowd. I remember one of our first dates, nothing extravagant, just coffee and a walk in the park. But we talked for hours. About childhood, music, fears, dreams, the things we'd never tell most people. And by the time the sun had set, I knew I didn't want that conversation to end. As the weeks passed, he showed up in all the little ways that mattered. He'd remember details I'd casually mention, like the way I take my tea, or the fact that I hate when people talk during movies. He'd surprise me with my favorite snacks after a long day, or just call to hear my voice when something reminded him of me. It wasn't perfect, of course no relationship is, but we communicated, we laughed, and we grew together. And I was happy, genuinely happy. Naturally, I wanted him to meet the people who mattered to me, so I introduced him to my sister. I thought it would be a simple, sweet thing. Just two people I love getting to know each other. At first, it felt harmless. She was warm, even complimentary, saying things like, "You two are so cute together," or "He seems like such a good guy." But then something shifted. Slowly, he started mentioning that she'd texted him little things here and there. Nothing inappropriate at first. Just memes, a funny story, something random. But the frequency grew. She'd ask about his interests, share music he liked, recommend shows she knew he was watching. It was subtle, almost friendly enough to pass off as innocent, but I started to notice how often she inserted herself into our space. If we had plans, she'd conveniently be in the area and swing by. If we were going out, she'd suggest tagging along, sometimes even insisting. And I couldn't lie to myself anymore. She was testing boundaries, pushing slowly, trying to gauge how far she could go without making it obvious. What made it worse was that he never gave her anything to work with. He was polite, but never flirted back. Never encouraged it. He'd even ask me sometimes, "Is she always like this?" with a concerned look that only confirmed what I was beginning to fear. That this wasn't all in my head, that my sister, my own sister, might actually be trying to take him from me. There was one night that really shook me. We were at a small get-together with friends, and I stepped out for just a minute to take a call. When I came back, she was laughing with him, her hand lightly touching his arm. He looked uncomfortable, almost frozen, like he didn't know what to do. As soon as he saw me, he gently pulled away, gave me this look like he was glad I had returned. It was all I needed to see. The relationship I had thought was just about the two of us suddenly felt invaded, like someone had crept in quietly and was trying to rearrange everything from the inside. What was once effortless now felt like it needed protecting. And I hated that hated feeling like I had to guard something so pure from someone who was supposed to love me too. But even as things got more tense, one thing became clear. He wasn't going anywhere, and neither was I. The moment everything truly shifted wasn't loud or explosive. It was quiet, unsettling, the kind of moment that creeps up on you and leaves your stomach in knots. For weeks, I'd been brushing off the strange energy, convincing myself that maybe I was just being too sensitive or paranoid. I didn't want to believe that my own sister could intentionally try to hurt me, let alone steal the man I loved. But there's a difference between doubt and instinct, and eventually instinct stopped letting me sleep at night. I remember the night it all came crashing down. We had planned a small game night at my place, just a few friends, some snacks, and nothing too serious. My boyfriend, of course, was helping me set up. He was always that kind of guy, thoughtful and hands-on. My sister arrived early, claiming she wanted to help, but it quickly became clear that wasn't her main reason. She was dressed a little too perfectly, her makeup a little too flawless for a casual night in. When she hugged my boyfriend hello, it lingered a beat too long. He gave me a look from across the room. It was subtle, but it said, "I noticed that too." Throughout the night, she was extra, laughing too loudly at his jokes, finding reasons to be near him, nudging him playfully, even giving him inside jokes from past conversations they'd had, conversations I hadn't been part of. That was my first real red flag. Why were they talking enough to have inside jokes? Then came the real line, crossing moment. I had stepped away to grab more drinks, and when I returned, I overheard her telling him that he deserved someone who really understood him. Her voice was soft, like she didn't want to be heard. But I heard. He immediately stood up and walked toward me, brushing past her, acting like he didn't hear it either. But I knew he did. We both did. Later that night, after everyone had left, he didn't even wait for me to bring it up. He looked me in the eye and said she crossed a line. It was the first time either of us said it out loud, and it felt like ice shattering. All the little moments I had brushed aside came rushing back, crashing into one undeniable truth. She wasn't just being flirty or competitive. She was actively trying to wedge herself between us. I was numb. My sister, someone I'd defended my entire life, was intentionally trying to take what she knew I loved. It's a betrayal that hits differently, not like heartbreak, more like erosion, slow but devastating. I tried to talk to her about it the next day, calmly, hoping maybe I had misunderstood, hoping she would show some remorse. Instead, she smirked, that smug little look that said, if he wanted you, why was he still talking to me? And that's when I knew. She didn't want him because she loved him. She wanted him because I had him. It was about control, about winning. And that realization hurt more than anything. This wasn't just about my relationship. It was about a lifetime of her needing to prove she could take whatever I had, whenever she wanted. But what she didn't realize was, this time, she picked the wrong person, because he wasn't some prize to be stolen. He saw her game for what it was, and instead of falling for her act, he chose to stand by me, firmly, without hesitation. After everything that had happened, the long glances, the sneaky texts, the whispered manipulations, I expected him to be confused. I thought maybe he'd be overwhelmed, maybe even tempted. That's what betrayal does to you. It makes you question even the people who have never given you a reason to doubt them. But instead of pulling away, he leaned in. In that moment when most people would have run from the drama, he grounded himself right beside me. It started with the way he began setting boundaries on his own. I never had to ask him to distance himself from her. He just did, slowly but deliberately. When she texted him one afternoon with some inside joke, he simply didn't respond. When she asked him to meet for coffee just to catch up, he politely declined. He came to me afterward and said, "If I even have to question whether it's appropriate, I don't want to be there." That one sentence told me everything I needed to know. He wasn't entertaining her. He wasn't feeding her fantasy. He saw it clearly, maybe even clearer than I did. And what amazed me was how he never made it about himself. He didn't sit around talking about how loyal he was, or how wrong she was. He just acted with integrity. Quiet, steady, intentional. It was in the little things, how he would hold my hand tighter around her, how he'd look me in the eyes when speaking, like he was anchoring me. And when she made one last desperate move, trying to spin some twisted story about how he had led her on, he didn't just deny it. He shut it down, firmly, in her face. He told her, word for word, "I love your sister. That's the beginning and the end of it." That moment was powerful, not because of what he said, but because of how he said it. Without anger, without theatrics, just truth, and the truth has a way of cutting through manipulation like nothing else. My sister didn't know what to do with it. She was so used to charming her way through situations, to twisting things in her favor, but he didn't give her anything to work with. No mixed signals, no hesitation, just unwavering loyalty, and that kind of loyalty, it changes things. It changes how you see love, because we're told so often that love is about passion or romance or grand gestures. But in reality, love is clarity. It's showing up when things get messy. It's choosing each other again and again, even when someone's actively trying to pull you apart. And through all of this, he never once made me feel like I was being dramatic or insecure. He never blamed me for being uncomfortable or asked me to just deal with it. Instead, he kept reminding me through words and actions that I was his choice, that we were a team, and that no matter how twisted things got, we would face it together. I started this thinking I'd have to fight for him, but it turns out he was the one already fighting for me. It was supposed to be a quiet evening, nothing extravagant, just dinner at our favorite little rooftop restaurant, where the city lights always made everything feel a little more magical. But there was this energy in the air, this nervous buzz in his voice, the way he kept checking his watch even though we were on time. At first, I thought maybe something had gone wrong at work, or he wasn't feeling well. I didn't know then that he was carrying a ring in his pocket, waiting for the perfect moment to do something bold, something unforgettable. And just like life always does, it threw in a twist. My sister called him while we were getting ready. I didn't know until later, but she had asked to meet him. Alone. She said she needed to clear the air, that there were things she had to confess. But he knew better. He had seen the pattern by now. He told her no, politely but firmly. And when she tried to insist, he said something that made my heart swell when he told me about it afterward. I'm done entertaining confusion. I'm exactly where I want to be. So when we arrived at the restaurant, I noticed a few familiar faces, our friends, my parents, even a few co-workers. And then there she was, my sister, standing off to the side, trying to look casual, like she hadn't just tried to meet him behind my back. I felt my chest tighten. I wasn't sure why she was there or what she was planning, but something about the way he smiled at me calmed everything. Like he already knew what I was feeling, and none of it could touch us. The night moved quickly after that. We ordered drinks, everyone chatted, but I could feel the tension between me and her like a live wire. She kept making comments, little jabs masked as jokes. You guys are so serious, huh? And I hope you're not rushing anything just because everyone else is settling down. I kept my cool. So did he, but then dessert arrived, and that's when everything changed. The waiter placed a tiny covered dish in front of me, and I looked at it, confused. Everyone fell silent, and when I lifted the lid, there it was, a ring, simple, elegant, exactly what I would have picked for myself. I looked up, and he was already kneeling beside me, his eyes locked on mine. I barely heard his words through the pounding in my chest, but they were soft and certain. There's no one else I want to build a life with. No more waiting, no more second guessing. Will you marry me? The moment froze, my heart raced, and then I said yes, not because it was romantic or dramatic, though it absolutely was, but because I knew in every cell of my body that he meant every word. That this man had watched everything unfold, the drama, the games, the tension. And instead of backing away, he chose to commit harder, to make a statement so loud, so undeniable, that even the person trying hardest to steal the spotlight had to step back and watch. My sister looked stunned. She didn't clap. She didn't smile. She stood there frozen, like the entire plan she'd crafted had just crumbled in her hands. And honestly, maybe it had, because what she didn't understand is that love, real love, isn't something you can manipulate or steal. It's something that's earned, and that night he didn't just propose to me. He proved to everyone in that room, including her, that I was already chosen. In the days that followed the proposal, everything started to settle, but in a new way. I wasn't just engaged. I was changed, because what had happened with my sister, with him, with me, it forced me to confront something I had ignored for years. It wasn't just about the ring, or the proposal, or even the drama that led to it. It was about identity, about waking up to the truth of how long I had made myself smaller to keep peace with someone who never intended to return the favor. You see, when the person competing with you is your own sister, it creates this strange emotional tangle. You don't want to believe they could be cruel, so instead you make excuses. You say things like, "That's just how she is," or "She doesn't mean it like that," or the classic, "It's not worth the fight." And I had been doing that for years, letting her take the spotlight, letting her interrupt me, letting her rewrite the narrative as long as it kept things calm. But it was never really calm. It was just quiet submission. And when I finally saw it for what it was, I couldn't unsee it. That proposal wasn't just a declaration of love. It was a turning point. It was the first time I saw someone stand up for me in a way I hadn't even stood up for myself. And that moment lit something inside me. Not a fire of revenge, not bitterness, just clarity. Clarity that I didn't have to play a role anymore. I didn't have to be the quiet sister, the polite one, the peacekeeper. I could be bold. I could take up space. I could be loved loudly, fully, without apology. And yes, things with my sister changed. The air between us cooled. The dynamic shifted. I stopped chasing her approval, stopped explaining myself, stopped pretending we were okay when we weren't. It hurt, I won't lie, grieving someone who's still alive, especially someone you've shared so many birthdays, secrets, and memories with, is a very specific kind of heartbreak. But some heartbreaks are necessary if they lead to healing. I also realized something else. People reveal who they are when they don't get what they want. And when she didn't get what she wanted when he proposed to me, when our friends clapped, when I smiled through tears and said yes, she didn't handle it with grace. She didn't wish me happiness. She didn't even pretend to. And that silence was louder than any argument we ever had. But I wasn't angry anymore. I was free, because I finally understood that her actions had never been about him. They were about control, attention, and insecurity. She couldn't steal love, not real love, because real love doesn't move when temptation calls. It stands firm, it protects, and more than anything, it chooses you, even when it would be easier not to. Now, I look at the life I'm building not just with him, but within myself, and I'm proud that I didn't fall apart. Proud that I saw the truth and faced it. Proud that I was chosen, not just by him, but finally by me. And that, more than any proposal or ring or picture, perfect moment, is the real victory.